7 a.m. I'm drinking coffee on my dock when the HOA president crosses my lawn with a surveyor and 2 sheriff's deputies. Darlene doesn't knock. She thrusts a clipboard at me, screaming, "I have 48 hours to get off community lake access or we'll remove you." Her perfume hits me before her words do. Expensive, aggressive, suffocating. Her Lexus idles in my driveway. Driver's door still open like she owns the place. The deputies look uncomfortable. Neighbors are filming from their porches. I take another sip. Stay silent. Because inside my house is a 1947 deed proving I don't just own this property. I own the entire lakebed. Every dock on Pinebrook Lake sits on land I control, including hers. She just started a war with the only person who can legally kick her off the water. Would you stay quiet or end it right there? Drop your move below. Watching from HOA prison or free land? Tell me. And hit like, subscribe if you'd like to help the channel grow. That little thanks button down below means a lot. 3 months before Darlene invaded my property, I was somebody else entirely. 45 years old, 22 years as a firefighter paramedic. The guy who pulls you out of burning cars and keeps your heart beating until the ER can take over. I took early retirement for one reason. My wife Lucia died 14 months ago. Cancer. The kind that moves fast and ignores all your bargaining. Our kids are grown. Son's with the Navy somewhere he can't name, daughters finishing grad school in Ohio. After Lucia passed, our suburban house became a mausoleum. Every room whispered her name. I sold it, took $340,000 cash, and bought this 1890s craftsman cottage on Pinebrook Lake in northern Wisconsin. Population, 340 year-round, maybe 600 in summer. 2.3 acres, 200 feet of private shoreline, loons calling at dawn, mist rolling off water so still it looked like black glass. Moving day, I stood on that dock with gas station coffee tasting like burnt regret and felt something besides grief for the first time in a year. The smell of wet cedar shingles, cold breeze stinging my face, screen door creaking behind me, begging for WD-40. I didn't care. It was perfect. Peace. Lasted exactly 36 hours. Day 2, 7:30 a.m., I'm hauling boxes from the U-Haul when gravel crunches under tires. White Lexus SUV rolls into my driveway, vanity plate, Lake Ken. A woman emerges, late 50s, yoga-toned, designer athleisure, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a tiara. She doesn't knock, doesn't introduce herself from a respectful distance. Just walks straight through my open garage, heels clicking concrete, and plants herself on my dock like she built it. "Good morning, Darlene Pritchard, Pinebrook Estates HOA president, 11 years running." Her voice could strip varnish off furniture. "We need to discuss your dock permit. It's under review. You're currently violating community waterfront covenants. I'm holding a box of Lucia's dishes, china from our wedding. I'm not part of an HOA." She shoves a 19-page packet at me. Welcome packet. Inside, fees, rules, architectural review board requirements, mandatory participation in the Lakefest Planning Committee. Sweetheart, everyone on Pinebrook Lake is part of Pinebrook Estates. Your ignorance doesn't create exemptions. First dues check by Friday, $450 monthly, plus $200 for new owner processing, cash or check. She turns, heels clicking back to her Lexus, doesn't wait for questions. I stand there, packet in hand, rage climbing my spine. This was supposed to be sanctuary. Lucia's last words, morphine soft under those humming hospital lights. "Find somewhere beautiful, Bennett. Promise me." I promised. I found it. Now some self-appointed dictator is telling me I'm trespassing on my own land. I call Gretchen, my real estate attorney, mid-60s, sharp enough to cut glass, suffers zero fools. Did I buy into an HOA? Long pause, papers rustling. "Not per your deed. Forward that packet. Every page. Something stinks." I photograph all 19 pages, send them, then sit on the dock. Practice the breathing. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out. Fire Academy basics. Control the adrenaline. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzes. "Gretchen, call me tonight. Don't sign anything." Then a text from an unknown local number. "This is Randy Kaczynski, your neighbor 2 houses down. Saw Darlene leave your place. She did this to the last guy who owned lakefront outside the HOA. Forced him out in 8 months. Be careful. She doesn't lose. I stare at that message. So this wasn't her first time. Darlene Pritchard had a system, a track record. She was a predator who'd done this before. She just didn't know she'd picked the wrong prey this time. I didn't know it yet, but Darlene had declared war on a man who'd spent 2 decades walking into burning buildings. She thought I'd run. Firefighters don't run from fire. We walked straight into it. That night, I called Gretchen. "Your deed is spotless," she said. "No HOA covenants, no restrictions, nothing requiring membership. Darlene's packet is fantasy." I asked if I should just ignore her. Legally, yes. Practically, people like Darlene don't quit because they're wrong. They quit when they're destroyed. You need ammunition buried in public records. I'm pulling full chain of title tomorrow. Every transaction back to when this land was timber forest. I thanked her and tried sleeping. Didn't happen. 2 a.m., staring at ceiling planks, listening to the house creak, thinking about Randy's text. She doesn't lose. Week 1 became psychological warfare. Darlene started patrolling every morning in her pontoon. White fiberglass, twin outboards, probably cost more than my truck. She'd idle 50 feet from my dock, binoculars raised, photographing everything. The reek of gasoline exhaust would roll across the water, poisoning the clean pine smell I'd moved here for. I'd stand there with coffee, waving like we were best friends. Her jaw would clench. She'd gun the throttles and leave, wake slapping my pilings. Small victories. Then the certified letter arrived, thick envelope, law firm return address, Hutchins and Marble, attorneys at law. A cease and desist claiming my dock violated established community waterfront access agreements and demanding I halt all unauthorized lake usage. I Googled the firm. Didn't exist. The address was a Mailboxes Plus in Duluth. She was threatening me with fake lawyers. Next came the email blast to 47 HOA members, CCing me. "It is with regret I inform you our newest lakefront resident refuses to pay dues, submit plans, or honor community covenants. Legal counsel has been retained. We will protect our shared resources. Unity matters. Darlene Pritchard, President." I read it twice, felt heat crawling up my neck, then heard my doorbell. Opened it to an older couple. 70s, flannel and cardigans, nervous smiles. "Randy Kaczynski, this is Deborah. We texted you. Can we come in?" I made coffee, real stuff, not the gas station punishment I'd been drinking, and they sat at my kitchen table looking like people about to confess something. "Darlene destroyed the guy before you," Randy said quietly. "Veteran, Purple Heart. She harassed him 9 months. Fake violations, made-up fines, lien threats. He sold for 60% of value. Her brother-in-law's LLC bought it. Now it's an Airbnb printing money." Deborah's hands wrapped around her mug. 3 properties in 6 years, same playbook every time. "Why doesn't anyone fight back?" I asked. They exchanged that look married people share when the truth is ugly. "She fined us $800 last year," Deborah said. Our mailbox post was weathered gray instead of approved forest green. When we argued, she threatened a lien. We paid. Randy added, 8 of us want her gone, but she has the county zoning chair in her pocket. They golf Wednesdays, and unlimited legal budget. We're retirees on fixed income. I asked what made them think I was different. Randy's smile was tired but genuine. "You didn't pay, you didn't blink, and honestly, you've got the eyes of a man who's already lost the worst thing possible. That makes you dangerous." He was right. That afternoon, I drove 45 minutes to Ashland County Recorder's office. Phyllis, elderly clerk, cat-eye glasses, floral blouse, pulled microfiche, and dusty files from 1947. "Interesting property," she said. "Lots of old, timber-barren history." I spent 4 hours in that fluorescent-lit room, scrolling through records that smelled like old paper and government neglect. My deed traced to 1947. Original owner, Harlan Torvik, lumber magnate who owned 5,000 acres, including the entire lake. When he subdivided in the 50s, he sold land parcels but kept lakebed ownership separate. I remembered Gretchen once mentioning that water and mineral rights often stay with original owners even when surface land sells. Some quirk of old property law most people forget exists. In 1989, Torvik's estate sold the lakebed to a private trust. That trust dissolved in 2018. Lakebed auctioned quietly. The buyer was listed as Lucia's Rest Holdings, LLC. I stared at that name until the words blurred. That was my LLC. Gretchen had created it for estate planning after Lucia died, named it without asking because she knew I'd cry. I'd bought the house and the lakebed as a package deal, one line buried in 50 pages of legal description. I owned the lake bottom. Every dock on Pinebrook, all 47 of them, including Darlene's, sat on my property. I walked outside into golden late afternoon light, hands trembling, and called Gretchen. "I need a marine surveyor." She asked why. "Because I own the lakebed. Every dock here is on my land." Long silence. Then, "Oh, Bennett, she's going to lose her mind." I smiled for the first time in days. Good. The marine surveyor cost $800 and showed up 3 days later in a boat that looked like it belonged to the Coast Guard. Carl was late 60s, face like weathered leather, 40 years mapping lake bottoms across Wisconsin. We spent 6 hours on the water while his sonar pinged away, GPS units blinking, equipment humming. "You weren't kidding," he said finally, showing me the digital map on his waterproof tablet. "You own from 10 feet offshore to dead center. Every dock, boat lift, swim platform, all on your property, including that floating mansion over there." He pointed at Darlene's setup, composite decking with built-in benches, motorized lift, LED lights. "Probably cost 40 grand. "Especially that one," I said. Carl grinned. "This is going to be fun, isn't it?" I paid cash, got the certified survey, and spent that evening on my dock with a beer, watching sunset turn the water orange and gold. The loons were calling, sound like lonely ghosts. I called Gretchen. "What can I actually do with this?" She didn't hesitate. "Legally? Revoke every easement tomorrow. They're trespassing. Practically, you'll be the most hated man in Wisconsin." I explained I only wanted to target Darlene and her cronies, protect the good people. "You'd need documented cause, harassment, bad faith, threats. Build the file first, then act." Week 3, Darlene brought the hammer down. She filed a complaint with county zoning claiming my dock was an unpermitted structure, violating setback requirements and environmental standards. Pure fiction. My dock was 70 years old, grandfathered under every regulation ever written, but filing triggered an automatic investigation, which meant I'd spend time and money defending against ghosts. Then came the invoice, certified mail, official letterhead she'd probably designed herself, demanding $1,850 for back dues, late fees, and special assessment for legal defense fund. Threatened lien placement in 10 days. I was actually laughing when Gretchen called. "You got the zoning complaint?" I told her yes, also the fake invoice. "Perfect. She's building your harassment case for you. Keep everything." That night, Darlene sent the email I'd been waiting for. Emergency HOA meeting, mandatory attendance, urgent violations threatening property values. I debated staying home just to irritate her, then decided I wanted a front row seat to whatever theater she was planning. The community center smelled like burnt coffee somebody forgot about 3 hours ago, and that industrial floor cleaner that stings your nose. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like insects trying to escape. 40-something people squeezed into folding chairs that groaned under weight. Darlene stood at the front with a projector setup that must have cost more than the building's annual budget. Laptop, wireless clicker, screen, the works. She wore a blazer and statement necklace, pacing like a prosecutor about to demand the death penalty. Her perfume arrived 5 seconds before she did, heavy jasmine that made my sinuses scream. I took a seat in the back corner. She spotted me immediately. Her face did something interesting. Surprise, rage, then forced smile. The smile was worse. "Thank you for coming," she began, voice loud enough to reach the cheap seats. "We face an existential threat to our community." Click. My property appeared on screen, photographed from her pontoon. "Our newest resident refuses basic compliance." Click. My wildflower lawn, native plants Lucia had researched for months before she got too sick to garden. "Vegetation exceeds permitted height by 4 inches. Click. My dock, perfectly legal. Unauthorized structure encroaching community waters. Click. My truck in the driveway. Commercial vehicle in residential zone. It was a F-250. Half the room drove trucks bigger than mine. An older woman in the third row actually laughed, tried to cover it with a cough. Darlene powered through. I propose progressive fines, $500 per day per violation, until compliance. The room went silent. Someone in front cleared his throat. Darlene, that's... She cut him off like a blade. Excessive is allowing property values to collapse because one person thinks rules don't apply. She called the vote. 32 hands went up. 15 abstained. You could see fear on their faces, people avoiding eye contact. Nobody voted no. Not one person. I stood. Every head swiveled. Quick question. What's your legal basis for finding someone who's not in your HOA? Her smile could have frozen the lake in July. You live on Pinebrook. That makes you subject to Pinebrook Estate's covenants, whether you acknowledge them or not. I nodded slow, like I was seriously considering her logic. I'll mention that to my attorney. She'll find it fascinating. Then I walked out while the room erupted behind me. Randy and Deborah caught me in the parking lot, gravel crunching under their shoes, along with a third person. Older black man, barrel-chested, eyes that had seen some things. Tobias Whitmore, Toby. His handshake could crush walnuts. 40 years on this lake. She pulled similar garbage on me in 19, claimed my dock violated some imaginary setback. I lawyered up, she vanished, but she's meaner now. He looked at me carefully. You're not scared. I shook my head. Spent 22 years walking into fires. She doesn't even raise my pulse. Toby's grin split his face. Then maybe you're what we need. 8 of us ready to fight. You in? I thought about Lucia. About what somewhere beautiful actually meant. Yeah, I'm in. Saturday evening we held what Toby dubbed dock court. 8 people squeezed onto my dock with paper plates and rebellion. Randy and Deborah brought potato salad. The Nguyens, Lynn and David, software engineers with 2 kids currently hunting frogs in the shallows, brought spring rolls and craft beer from Ashland. Mrs. Halverson arrived with a Tupperware of cookies that smelled like my grandmother's kitchen. Paulette, retired teacher, brought nothing but stories. Marcus, who ran the bait shop, brought evidence. 2 years of violation notices from Darlene claiming his hand-painted sign was commercial blight. I grilled bratwurst while they downloaded their pain. Darlene had rejected the Nguyens solar panels, calling them ethnic visual clutter in the actual denial letter. Mrs. Halverson got fined because her dock had weathered to unapproved gray. Every story followed the same template. Find the rule, weaponize it, extract money or compliance. I spread Carl's survey map between beer bottles and brat grease. See this? I own the lakebed. Every dock here sits on my property. Silence dropped like a stage curtain. Then Randy started laughing so hard he had to set down his beer. You own the lake? Toby traced the boundary lines with one thick finger. Every single dock is on your land? I nodded. The 1953 covenant says easements are revocable if homeowners harass the lakebed owner. Darlene's been harassing me since hour 1. Lynn Nguyen looked at her husband, then back at me. You could ban her from the water. The word hung there like summer lightning. Could. The question was should. Mrs. Halverson's hand found mine, fingers like dry twigs, grip surprisingly strong. My husband built our dock in '73, taught 3 kids to swim there. My grandson caught his first base off those boards last summer. Her voice fractured. I thought when I die, Darlene would steal it from my family. Some made-up fine I couldn't fight. I squeezed back gently. You'll never lose it. I'm drafting permanent easements. Free, recorded, yours forever. No fees, no Darlene, just protection. Paulette wiped her eyes. Marcus cleared his throat hard. The moment felt too big for my dock. Sun melting into the water, everything gold and purple. Kids laughing in the shallows, the smell of charcoal and hope mixing together. Toby raised his bottle. To Bennett, and to Darlene's really bad Monday. Monday arrived right on schedule. 5:30 a.m., mist still thick on the water. I'm on my porch with coffee when a black Mercedes with Minneapolis plates rolled up like a shark in a koi pond. The guy who got out wore a suit that cost more than my boat, watch flashing in early light, hair slicked like an 80s villain. He climbed my steps without invitation, invaded my space like he'd bought it already. Garrett Finch, Darlene's brother-in-law. We should talk. His smile belonged in a dentistry horror film. I stayed seated, coffee in hand. Talk. He showed me his phone. $500,000. Cash. 20% over your purchase price. Close in 30 days, walk away clean, everyone's happy. I let him stand there holding that number like it meant something. Pass. The smile stayed, but his eyes went reptile cold. You're making a serious mistake, friend. Darlene has the county supervisor on speed dial. Zoning chair, they golf Wednesdays. Township board, half of them owe her favors. This can go smooth or it can go bad. Your call. I set my mug down slow. 22 years of dealing with bullies who think volume equals authority. I'll take bad. His mask cracked. We've cleared 3 properties already. Bought them for 50 cents on the dollar after we made the owners' lives unlivable. You think you're special? I stood, opened my door. Meeting's done. Get off my property before I call the sheriff and explain how you just confessed to harassment and coercion. Oh, and I recorded this whole conversation. His face went through 4 emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, rage, calculation, retreat. He walked to his Mercedes stiff-legged, turned at the door. That was your last dignified exit. I smiled. Good thing I stopped caring about dignity when my wife died. Now I just care about winning. Gravel spit from his tires as he left. I called Gretchen before his dust settled. Darlene sent her enforcer. Threats, buyout offer, confession to prior harassment. Got it all on my phone. She made a sound like Christmas morning. Oh, Bennett, she's panicking. People don't negotiate when they think they can win. I laid out the plan. Permanent easements for allies, 30-day revocations for Darlene's crew. How fast can you draft? She laughed. For this? I'll work till dawn. Most fun I've had since the Morrison divorce in '03. That afternoon I went door to door with manila folders, introducing myself properly this time, explaining what I could offer. Most people cried. Some thought it was a scam until they read the documents. An old Marine with a Purple Heart on his wall shook my hand so hard it hurt. Darlene said I'd lose my doc when the new fees hit. I was going to sell the house my daughter was born in. He signed there on his kitchen table, and I watched decades of fear slide off him. By sunset, I'd visited 30 houses, got 28 signatures, and felt like maybe Lucia had been right. Beautiful places are worth protecting, even if you have to fight for them. Tuesday morning, I finally faced the boxes I'd been avoiding for 14 months. Lucia's estate papers shoved in my closet where grief hides from daylight. Old tax returns, medical bills with amounts that still made me nauseous, sympathy cards I couldn't read without my throat closing. Then I found a folder I didn't remember packing, thick manila, corners soft from handling, Lucia's handwriting on the tab in purple ink she always used. Pinebrook Research. L's project. My hands stopped working for a second. She'd been here in spirit, researching this place probably during those long chemo afternoons when exhaustion was the only thing stronger than hope. I opened it careful, like it might disintegrate. Inside smelled like her, that lotion she used, faint lavender still clinging to paper after a year. Photocopies of 1950s subdivision plats, letters between Harlan Torvik and original buyers, newspaper clippings about lumber barons, and one document that made my heart kick. 20 pages, paper gone yellow-brown, dated April 1953. Covenant regarding lakebed rights and dock easements, signed by 12 original homeowners in fountain pen, signatures looping and formal like people used to write. I sat on my bedroom floor and read. The covenant was crystal. Lakebed owner retained all water rights forever. Homeowners got dock easements, explicitly revocable, at lakebed owner's sole discretion. Easements required good conduct, neighborly behavior, and community stewardship. Then the nuclear option, buried in Section 7, automatic forfeiture clause. Any homeowner engaging in harassment, bad faith legal action, or coordinated efforts to deprive the lakebed owner of peaceful property enjoyment forfeited their easement immediately. No hearing, no appeal, done. Darlene had been filing fake legal complaints, sending fraudulent invoices, organizing voting blocks to find me into bankruptcy. Every action was textbook forfeiture trigger. She'd spent 6 weeks building the case against herself, documenting it in emails and meeting minutes like she wanted to get caught. At the folder's bottom, paper clipped to the covenant, Lucia's note on hospital stationery with the cancer center logo that still hurt to see. Her handwriting, shaky from medications but determined. Bennett, found this researching Pinebrook while you were at work. This place survived bullies before. The original owners protected it with these rules for a reason. Now it's your job. The law is on your side. The lake is in your hands. Protect the good people. Make it somewhere beautiful again. I love you. I believe in you. L. I read it 5 times, vision swimming, and finally understood. She'd been planning this from her hospital bed, researching property law between morphine doses, building me a roadmap for a fight she knew was coming but wouldn't see. Not just leaving me the deed, leaving me the blueprint. I called Gretchen, voice scraped raw. Lucia left me something. I photographed every page, sent them while still sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes and ghosts. Long silence on her end, just the sound of PDFs loading, then a low whistle. Bennett, this covenant is fortress grade. Recorded in 53, runs with the land, binds everyone. That forfeiture clause is a loaded gun and Darlene just pulled the trigger herself. I asked how we prove harassment. We don't have to. She documented everything. Fake invoices, fraudulent legal filings, meeting minutes proposing illegal fines. She built her own gallows. Lakefest is 3 weeks out, I said. Can we do the revocations there, publicly? Pause. You want 300 witnesses? I thought about Mrs. Halverson's hands shaking, kids losing their swimming docks, good people crushed under petty tyranny. Yeah, everyone should see what happens when you weaponize power against neighbors. Gretchen's voice got that edge I recognized from command decisions in burning buildings. Then let's give them a show. Fair warning, this burns every bridge. I looked at Lucia's note, her belief in me preserved in purple ink. Don't need bridges when you own the water. We turned my dock into a war room. Every Wednesday at sunset for 3 weeks, the coalition gathered, Tobe, Randy and Deborah, the Nguyen's, Mrs. Halverson, Paulette, Marcus, plus Gretchen on speakerphone from her office 60 miles away. We called it Dock Court, and it felt more like family dinners than strategy sessions, except the stakes were someone's entire empire. Toby brought a whiteboard he'd salvaged from the old elementary school, set it up on an easel between my tackle box and the cooler. We mapped out every move like generals planning an invasion, except our weapons were property law and public humiliation. Gretchen walked us through the legal framework in plain English, because half the group's eyes glazed over whenever Latin showed up. Easements aren't permanent unless recorded and paid for. Darlene's been acting like she granted your dock rights, but she never had that power. Bennett does. Here's what we're drafting. She outlined 3 document types. First, easement revocation notices for Darlene and her 6 closest allies, the ones who'd voted for progressive fines, helped with harassment, or profited from the scheme. 30-day cure period legally required even though Bennett didn't owe them that courtesy. Each notice cited specific acts, dates of fake legal filings, copies of fraudulent invoices, meeting minutes showing coordinated harassment. Document everything, Gretchen said. Make it impossible to claim this is arbitrary or vindictive. This is consequence, not revenge. Second, new permanent easement agreements for everyone else. 40 homeowners who'd either stayed neutral or actively opposed Darlene. These granted irrevocable dock rights recorded at county level, protected them from future extortion, cost them nothing. This is critical, Gretchen explained. You're not the villain taking away the lake. You're the hero protecting it from tyrants. Optics matter. The Nguyens volunteered to design the agreements in clean, readable format, none of that 8-point font legal torture. Lynn was a UX designer and treated it like a product people actually needed to understand. Smart. Third, the criminal referral packet for the DA. Joanne, Tobe's forensic accountant friend, retired IRS agent with reading glasses on a chain and the energy of someone who enjoyed destroying financial fraud, had spent 2 weeks analyzing HOA records that Randy's neighbor smuggled out. Her findings were surgical. Darlene had embezzled roughly $110,000 over 3 years through fake legal fees paid to non-existent firms, checks cashed by Garrett's LLCs, special assessments collected for dock repairs that never happened. Darlene's personal landscaping company billing $4,500 monthly for common area maintenance on a boat ramp and mailbox cluster. Joanne created charts simple enough for a jury. Money in, money diverted, money vanished into Darlene's pocket. "This isn't complicated fraud," she said, adjusting her glasses. "This is just theft with paperwork." I asked what normal people could learn from this. Joanne smiled like a teacher whose student finally asked the right question. "If you're in an HOA, you have the legal right to request financial records in most states. Demand an independent audit if something smells wrong. Embezzlers rely on nobody checking the math. Always check the math." I filed that under things I'd tell people later. We divided the work. Gretchen drafted legal documents. Joanne refined the financial evidence. Randy and Tobe personally visited the 40 homeowners we were protecting, explaining the new easements, getting signatures notarized. The response was overwhelming. People cried, hugged them, asked if this was real. Several brought up Darlene's past victims, the veterans she'd driven out, the family who lost their grandfather's cabin. This wasn't just about docks anymore, it was about stopping a pattern. Marcus worked a different angle. He contacted Ruth Alvarez, editor of the Ashland County Beacon, weekly paper with decent circulation and a reputation for hating corruption. Tipped her anonymously about significant HOA financial irregularities, public statement coming at Lakefest. Ruth smelled blood in the water, confirmed she'd attend with a photographer. Then Marcus called someone at the DA's office. His nephew's girlfriend worked there, and suggested they might want someone at the festival for community outreach. The assistant DA, woman named Carmen Ortiz, with a reputation for prosecuting white-collar crime, agreed to stop by. Meanwhile, Darlene was oblivious, too busy planning her moment of triumph. She rented a stage, booked a terrible classic rock cover band, ordered 500 hot dogs, and sent increasingly aggressive emails about mandatory attendance and important community announcements. She planned to use Lakefest to unveil enhanced enforcement, doubled fines, new architectural restrictions, mandatory volunteering. Her cronies were already celebrating, toasting on their docks at sunset, thinking they'd broken me. 3 days before the festival, Darlene sent one final ultimatum. Last chance to comply before formal legal action. Pay all outstanding fees, $2,400, by Friday or face liens and dock removal. I replied with 2 words, "See you Saturday." She must have thought I was surrendering, showing up to beg. She had no idea I was walking in with legal documents, financial evidence, a district attorney, and a newspaper ready to burn her kingdom to ash. The smell of charcoal and burgers was going to mix with the smell of her empire collapsing. Toby said it best that last Wednesday, packing up the whiteboard as fireflies blinked over the water. "This is going to be biblical." Week before Lakefest, Darlene discovered through her spy network, because of course she had one, that Bennett had been visiting homeowners with documents. Her panic email went to her inner circle, but accidentally included the full HOA list, which meant I got it too. "He's trying to turn people against us. We need to act decisively before Saturday. Garrett has ideas." Reading that felt like watching someone light their own fuse. I forwarded it to Gretchen with the subject line, "More evidence." Garrett showed up at my place again 2 days later, this time without the fake smile. Pulled into my driveway at 7 p.m., still daylight but getting golden, walked up to where I was staining my deck rails. "You're making a serious mistake," he said, skipping pleasantries. "Keep pushing and accidents happen. Docks catch fire, insurance gets expensive, people get hurt." I set down my brush, pulled out my phone, held it up so he could see the recording app running. "That's a threat. I'm documenting it. You should leave." His face went through several colors before he turned and left, tires spitting gravel loud enough the neighbors looked out their windows. I called Sheriff Krantz, Deputy Krantz technically, late 30s, professional, skeptical of rich people threatening working folks, played him the audio. He took a report, said he'd increase patrols, warned me to install cameras if I hadn't already. I told him Tobe had helped me put up 4 of them last week. Motion activated, recording to cloud storage. Good, Krantz said. People like Finch usually escalate right before they lose. Be careful. He was right. 2 nights before Lakefest, I woke at 3 a.m. to Hank, the rescue mutt I'd adopted a month back, all ears and loyalty, going ballistic at the bedroom window. Grabbed my phone and flashlight, went outside in boxer shorts and boots, found my dock floating 20 feet offshore, lines cut clean, bashing against rocks with sounds like gunshots. Composite decking was cracked, one cleat ripped completely off. $1,200 damage, easy. But more than that, it was psychological. They wanted me to know they could reach me, hurt what I'd built, make me feel unsafe in the place Lucia picked for peace. I checked the cameras on my phone. 2 figures in dark hoodies, faces covered, moving fast. Couldn't prove it was Garrett's people, but the timing wasn't coincidence. I called Krantz, filed another report, then sat on my porch watching the sky turn from black to gray, rage sitting in my chest like hot coals. Hank pressed against my leg, solid and warm. I scratched his ears and thought about walking away, taking Garrett's money, finding peace somewhere else. Then I thought about Mrs. Halverson's shaking hands, the Nguyens kids losing their swimming spot, all the people Darlene had crushed before me. No, I wasn't leaving, and I wasn't hiding. By 8 a.m., 6 trucks were in my driveway. Randy, Tobe, Marcus, David, and Nguyen, 2 guys I barely knew but who'd heard what happened and showed up with tools anyway. They rebuilt my dock in 7 hours, better than before, reinforced cleats, marine-grade hardware, composite decking that'd outlast me. Deborah and Lynn brought sandwiches and lemonade. Mrs. Halverson sat in a lawn chair supervising, shouting encouragement. The kids played in the shallows, catching minnows in nets, turning vandalism into a block party. Someone brought a Bluetooth speaker, played old country music. The smell of cut lumber and dock sealant mixed with summer air and something else. Community, solidarity. The thing Darlene thought she'd built but had actually destroyed. Around 3 p.m., Darlene drove past slowly in her Lexus, windows down, staring at the scene. Saw me surrounded by people actively helping, laughing, working. Her face looked like she'd bitten into a lemon made of pure rage. She didn't stop, just accelerated away, engine whining. "She's scared," Tobe said, tightening a bolt. "Scared people do desperate things." I nodded, running my hand over the new decking. Smooth, solid, ours. 2 more days, then it's over. Randy clapped my shoulder. "You still going through with it? The public thing?" I thought about the folder Lucia left me, her note about protecting good people. Yeah, everyone needs to see what happens when you weaponize power, not just for punishment, for prevention, so the next person like Darlene thinks twice. That evening, after everyone left and the dock was finished, I stood there with a beer watching sunset turn the lake into liquid copper. Hank sat beside me, tail thumping the boards. My phone buzzed, text from Gretchen. Documents ready. DA confirmed attendance. Reporter confirmed. "You sure about this?" I typed back. Lucia was sure, that's enough. 3 dots appeared, then she'd be proud. "See you Saturday." I finished my beer, scratched Hank's head, and went inside to rehearse what I'd say. Not because I didn't know the words. I knew them bone deep. But because some things are worth saying perfectly. And Saturday, in front of 300 people, I was going to say them loud enough that nobody on Pinebrook Lake would ever forget. You don't win by being the loudest bully. You win by being the person who stands up when everyone else is too scared. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you don't stand alone. Friday morning, day before Lakefest, Darlene launched her final attack on Facebook. The Pinebrook community group had 850 members, mix of lake residents, townspeople, summer visitors, local businesses. She posted at 6 a.m., probably calculated for maximum reach before people started their day. Urgent. Newcomer threatens our community. Recent lakefront resident refuses to pay lawful HOA dues, has threatened board members with violence, and is attempting to privatize our lake through frivolous legal claims. He is unstable and dangerous. We have retained counsel and will be pursuing all available remedies. For your safety, avoid contact. More details at tomorrow's Lakefest. Unity and vigilance matter. Darlene Pritchard, President. I read it over coffee that tasted like battery acid, watching her post get reactions. 40 within the first hour. Half were her cronies expressing shock and support with crying emojis and angry faces. But the other half surprised me. Randy posted, "I've known Bennett 3 months. He's the opposite of dangerous. Ask yourself why Darlene's scared." Toby added, "Lived here 40 years. Darlene's the only unstable person I've seen." Then Mrs. Halverson, 80-something widow who probably learned Facebook last week, wrote in all caps, "Darlene lies. Bennett gave me free dock rights. Darlene tried to fine me $800 for a mailbox. Who is the bully?" The comments became a war zone. People defending me, people clutching pearls about property values, people asking reasonable questions like, "What legal basis does the HOA have?" and getting shouted down. Lynn Nguyen posted a single sentence that cut through everything. Darlene rejected our solar panels and called them ethnic clutter in writing. We have the letter. She's not protecting community values. She's protecting her power. That got 200 reactions. The post was still climbing when I decided to stay out of it entirely. I wrote one reply, calm and factual. "All questions will be answered tomorrow at Lakefest during public comment. I look forward to full transparency." Then I muted notifications and went back to the real work. Behind the scenes, Garrett was making calls. Marcus heard it through his nephew's girlfriend at the DA's office. Garrett had contacted the county zoning chair trying to fast-track my dock as an emergency violation, pressure the county to issue a removal order before Saturday. The zoning chair, guy named Woodson who supposedly golfed with Darlene every Wednesday, actually called me. "Mr. Bennett, Dennis Woodson, County Zoning. I've received a complaint about your dock structure. I'm obligated to investigate, but I want you to know, this smells political. Your dock predates our authority by 70 years. Unless it's actively collapsing into the lake, you're grandfathered. Don't let them bully you." I thanked him, surprised that Darlene's web of connections was developing holes. Turns out even corrupt officials have limits. That afternoon, 3 homeowners who'd been wavering, friends of Darlene, people in her social circle, showed up at my door together. 2 couples and a single guy, all looking uncomfortable. The woman spoke first, Andrea, late 50s, yoga pants and guilt. "We voted for those fines against you. Darlene said you were threatening property values, that you'd bring lawsuits against all of us." She paused. "But Randy showed us the easement you're offering. Free, permanent, no strings. And Joanne showed us the financial records. Darlene's been stealing from us for years." Her voice cracked. "We want to apologize, and we want those easements if you'll still give them to us." I invited them in, made coffee, pulled out the documents. They signed right there at my kitchen table, hands shaking, couple of them crying. "Why are you doing this?" the single guy asked. Dan, someone who'd actively voted against me 2 months ago. I thought about how to answer that. "Because my wife told me to find somewhere beautiful and protect it. Turns out protecting it means protecting the people, not the property. And punishing you for being scared doesn't fix anything. But holding Darlene accountable, that fixes everything." They left with their signed easements, and I watched them walk to their cars with something like hope on their faces. Toby called an hour later. "Heard Andrea's group flipped. That's 43 homeowners protected now. Darlene's down to her core 6, the ones profiting directly. I did the math. 43 allies, 6 enemies, 300 witnesses tomorrow. Good odds," Toby laughed. "Biblical odds." That night I couldn't sleep, sat on my dock under stars that looked like holes punched in black paper, Hank snoring beside me. Somewhere across the lake I could hear music, people pre-gaming for tomorrow's festival. The air smelled like summer, cut grass, barbecue smoke, lake water, pine. I thought about Lucia in that hospital bed researching property law between morphine doses, building me a roadmap she wouldn't live to see me follow. Thought about every person Darlene had crushed, every family she'd driven out, every small cruelty she'd normalized because nobody stopped her. Tomorrow that stopped. Not with violence, not with matching her ugliness, but with law, transparency, and 300 people watching consequences happen in real time. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, and read through my speech one final time. Didn't change a word. Some things you just know are right. The lake was quiet, stars reflected in black water, and for the first time in months I felt something close to peace. The kind you earn. The kind that comes right before the storm breaks and everything changes. Tomorrow, Darlene Pritchard's empire ended, and tomorrow, Pinebrook Lake became beautiful again. Saturday morning broke clear and hot, the kind of northern Wisconsin summer day that makes tourists spend too much on lakefront property. Lakefest setup started at 9 a.m. White tents blooming across the community park, grills smoking, picnic tables appearing in rows, the stage Darlene rented looming at the center like a gallows. I arrived at 10 carrying a leather folder with 50 copies of documents, financial audit summaries with charts even my kids could understand, easement revocation notices, the list of 43 homeowners I'd protected. Gretchen was already there in a sundress and sunglasses, looking like someone's aunt but carrying legal firepower. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. "Lucia's ready. That's what matters." By noon the crowd hit 300. Families with kids running around, retirees in lawn chairs, teenagers working the food tables, townspeople who came for free hot dogs and stayed for gossip. Mayor Hutchins was there, portly guy with a nervous smile who avoided conflict like it carried disease. Carmen Ortiz from the DA's office stood near the lemonade stand in a blazer despite the heat, taking notes on her phone, eyes missing nothing. Ruth Alvarez and her photographer from the Beacon positioned themselves stage left with professional cameras. The air smelled like charcoal, sunscreen, and anticipation. Darlene arrived at 12:15 in white linen and oversized sunglasses, Garrett trailing behind in expensive casual wear that screamed Minneapolis money. She worked the crowd like a politician, hugging people, laughing too loud, performing confidence. But I saw her hands. They shook when she thought nobody was looking. She took the stage at 12:30 for opening remarks, her voice amplified across the park. "Welcome to Lakefest, celebrating community unity and the values that make Pinebrook special." Applause from her faction, polite clapping from everyone else. She ran through announcements, band at 3, raffle at 4, fireworks at dusk. Then her tone shifted, got serious. "We've faced challenges this year. A new resident who refuses to respect our community standards. But I'm pleased to announce we're implementing enhanced enforcement to protect your property values. New architectural review requirements, increased dues to $5.75 monthly, and mandatory volunteer participation. Unity requires sacrifice." The crowd murmured. Some people looked uncomfortable, others confused, her cronies nodding like bobbleheads. Then she made her mistake. "We're also addressing the situation with our non-compliant neighbor through proper legal channels. Some people think rules don't apply to them. We're here to prove otherwise." She looked directly at me when she said it, couldn't help herself. That was the moment I knew she'd already lost. Winners don't need to gloat before the victory. Public comment was scheduled for 1:30. Mayor Hutchins took the microphone looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "We'll now open the floor for community input. Please keep remarks brief and respectful," Darlene tried to interrupt. "Actually, Mayor, we're running behind schedule. Maybe we should skip." I stood up, started walking toward the stage. "I registered to speak. First Amendment, Darlene." The crowd went silent, 300 people suddenly paying attention. Mayor Hutchins looked between us, then nodded. "Mr. Bennett has the floor." I climbed the stage stairs, folder in hand, no notes needed. Looked out at the crowd, saw Randy and Deborah, Tobe and his wife, the Nguyens with their kids eating ice cream, Mrs. Halverson in her wheelchair in the shade, Marcus leaning against a tree, 43 families I'd protected scattered through the audience. Saw Carmen Ortiz with her phone out recording. Saw Ruth's photographer raise his camera. Took a breath and began. "Hi everyone, I'm Bennett. Moved here 4 months ago after my wife Lucia died from cancer. I wanted peace. What I got was harassment from someone who thought I'd be easy to break." The crowd was dead silent. Darlene claimed I owed HOA fees. My property predates the HOA and isn't subject to it. She claimed my dock was illegal. Actually, I own the lakebed under every dock on this lake. That's public record at the county office. Anyone can verify. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People pulled out phones, started searching. Darlene's face went white. Under a 1953 covenant, every dock here exists because the lakebed owner allows it. That's me. And that covenant says if homeowners harass the lakebed owner, their dock rights are automatically revoked. Darlene found her voice. That's a lie. This is slander. I ignored her, kept going. I'm not here to punish good people. I've already granted free permanent easements to 43 homeowners. No fees, no strings, recorded and protected forever. But there's something else you all need to know. I pulled out Joanne's financial charts, held them up. Your HOA collected $110,000 over 3 years for legal fees and repairs. Want to know where it went? The crowd leaned forward. Fake invoices, Garrett's LLCs, Darlene's personal companies, 0 actual repairs, it's embezzlement, and the evidence is here. The crowd erupted. Shouts, gasps, people standing. Carmen Ortiz stepped forward, badge visible. I'll be taking copies of those documents. Ruth's photographer was firing shots rapid fire, shutter clicking like a machine gun. Darlene grabbed the microphone. You're lying. This is a coordinated attack. I've built this community. Someone in the crowd yelled back, by stealing our money? Another voice, you fined my kid for sidewalk chalk. The crowd turned, anger redirecting toward her like a wave. I held up the revocation notices. Darlene, Garrett, and 6 others who actively participated in harassment. Your 30-day notices are here. After that, your docs are gone. Everyone else is protected. This is legal, recorded, and final. Darlene's face went from white to purple. You can't do this. I'll sue. I smiled, calm as still water. You already tried. Judge Ostrom dismissed it. This is over, Darlene. She lunged for the documents, Garrett trying to pull her back. They stumbled off the stage together, Darlene screaming something about lawyers and consequences. She fled to her Lexus, engine roaring, tires spitting gravel as she peeled out. The crowd watched her go, then erupted in cheers. 6 weeks after Lakefest, the DA filed charges. Darlene and Garrett faced 12 counts: embezzlement, fraud, filing false reports, each one documented in emails they'd been dumb enough to write. Their Minneapolis lawyers tried every delay tactic invented, but Joanne's financial analysis was surgical, and Carmen Ortiz prosecuted like someone with a personal grudge against entitled thieves. By October, they'd both pleaded out. Darlene got 18 months probation, $110,000 in restitution, and a lifetime ban from HOA leadership anywhere in Wisconsin. Garrett lost his real estate license and got 2 years probation. Both sold their properties by Halloween and disappeared like smoke. Nobody threw them a going-away party. The HOA died 2 weeks after the festival. 41 homeowners voted unanimously to dissolve Pinebrook Estates entirely. Darlene's remaining cronies didn't even show up, knew they'd lost. I stayed away intentionally, let people choose their future without me hovering. They created the Lake Stewardship Committee instead. Volunteer, 0 dues, focused on conservation, and throwing better parties than Darlene ever managed. Randy chaired it, Deborah handled money, published budgets online monthly, every nickel accounted for. Transparency's a hell of a disinfectant. My easement system became permanent. All 47 homeowners signed free agreements, even the 3 former Darlene loyalists after they apologized with actual sincerity, recorded at county, protected forever. No fees, no rules beyond basic human decency. The Nguyens framed theirs, hung it above their fireplace like a diploma. Mrs. Halverson touched hers so many times the paper started wearing smooth like a prayer book. I used $25,000 from Lucia's estate to build something lasting. First, the Lucia Bennett Memorial Scholarship, $2,000 yearly to local students pursuing nursing or emergency medicine. First recipient was a kid from Ashland whose single mom worked 2 jobs and cried so hard at the awards ceremony I had to look away or join her. Lucia would have loved that. Second, the Lake Conservation Fund, water testing, invasive species removal, native shoreline restoration. Toby ran Saturday volunteer crews, taught kids to identify milfoil and purple loosestrife, turned ecological warfare into family bonding. The Nguyen kids became tiny environmental soldiers, ruthlessly efficient at pulling weeds. Year 2 Lakefest happened without drama. Just 350 people eating burgers and swimming off docks nobody could ever take away. Marcus's daughter painted a banner, Pinebrook Community Festival, S 2025, the good version. Someone brought a dunk tank. The awful cover band was replaced by local teenagers who actually had talent. Toby taught dock building workshops, parents and kids working together, sawdust and laughter mixing with the smell of fresh lumber and lake water. That's what Lucia meant about beauty, not the scenery, the people who protect it together. I healed in unexpected ways. Finished Lucia's wildflower garden, black-eyed Susans and coneflowers that fed monarchs every August. My son visited on leave. We fished for 3 days without talking much, which somehow said everything. My daughter brought her boyfriend for Thanksgiving. I taught them kayaking, approved of his character. Hank became the dock's benevolent dictator, taught half the neighborhood dogs that swimming beats barking. I started volunteering again, teaching CPR and water rescue to rural fire departments within 60 miles, finding purpose in the work Lucia and I both loved. Some mornings I'd wake up and realize I'd gone whole days without the grief crushing my chest. She'd have wanted that. One August morning, coffee on the dock, watching mist burn off water that looked like melted silver, Ruth from the Beacon called. Mrs. Halverson's son-in-law is trying to force her into a nursing home so he can grab her property. She's terrified, asked if you'd help. I thought about Lucia's note, protect the good people, and realized some fights you don't walk away from because you've learned what actually matters. Leave a comment, hit like, subscribe, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, that little thanks button down below means a lot.